Hey everyone, this is Dave here with a look at Skyrim Special Edition on PlayStation 4 Pro. So, on Sony's new console there are two distinct modes available for this game. There's a 1080p mode and a 4K mode which runs at a higher resolution. And what we're going to be doing here is finding out which is the best way to play the game and of course how it stacks up in each of the respective modes against the PlayStation 4 and indeed PC releases. So let's get started with a look at 4K then. On the left we've got PS4 Pro and on the right we've got the PC version running at ultra settings in native 4K. And well, overall image quality is pretty comparable. In fact, the game looks basically identical on this front. Both versions are using the maximum quality temporal anti-aliasing solution, and this leads to a very clean image indeed. And at 4K, any kind of shimmering or jaggies are practically eliminated, so we get a very smooth picture throughout. Now at 1080p, the use of temporal anti-aliasing did produce a somewhat soft image, but at 4K, well, the softness is reduced and we get a much crisper presentation overall, and this leads to a number of benefits. For one, more finely detailed textures actually appear crisper and better defined, and on top of that, subpixel scenery and objects at range are resolved to a much higher standard. Essentially, you are getting more fine details due to the extra pixel precision on offer, and that is indeed a nice upgrade over the game running on the standard PlayStation 4 at 1080p. But what else are we getting beyond resolution? Well, not a hell of a lot to be honest. One area which does see an improvement when running the game on PS4 Pro is Foliage draw distance. This is now equal to the PC version running fully maxed out at Ultra, and this means we get less foliage pop up and extra tufts of grass and plants across the scene. These elements are drawn in somewhat later on PS4, but on Pro we actually get more fully fleshed out environment details as a result. Unfortunately, this improvement in streaming doesn't apply to other areas. So for example, rocks, street signs, basic geometric objects. Well, streaming here is identical to the base PlayStation 4 game. There's no upgrade, and the PC version at Ultra definitely has an advantage here. Similarly, shadow quality is identical to the base game running on PlayStation 4, and the effects work is also the same. So, PC owners still benefit from general streaming improvements and of course higher quality volumetric lighting and higher resolution shadows. Still, it's not a bad improvement, and as we're looking at a native 4K resolution, that's a pretty big jump over, say, the 1080p game being displayed on a 4K screen. So the game holds up very well in terms of visual quality, but what about performance? Sony state that all PlayStation 4 Pro games must run with equal or better frame rates compared to the game running on the standard PlayStation 4 console. And well, what's interesting with Skyrim is that performance isn't quite as solid with the game running on the PlayStation 4 Pro. We tested this version running both in 4K and 1080p mode, but the results are actually the same. The game still targets 30 frames per second, and a lot of the time we actually see a solid look at that number, with just a few mild stutters in the form of 1 to 3 FPS drops cropping in from time to time. In that respect, it's pretty similar to the game running on the base PlayStation 4. But here's the thing, in more complex scenes, particularly when there is an abundance of alpha effects, say when you're riding through a forest, or when there's things like explosions and debris being flown around, then performance actually gets hit harder on the PS4 Pro.
Good, let's get this over with.
Sure, Mara, Debella, Kinnarev, Akatosh, Divines, please help me.
It's not an ideal situation, and I have to say the stutter is more noticeable here. So while the experience may be perfectly smooth in less demanding scenes, as soon as we enter more detailed areas then some choppiness can arise. I found this a little bit disappointing to be honest, but at the same time I kinda understand if they're targeting 4K resolution. After all, it's a 4 times increase in pixel count, and that's going to be pretty demanding on the GPU. And what's interesting here is it kind of makes sense why we're not getting upgrades in terms of shadow quality and general effects work across the board. Essentially, there isn't really enough headroom to do that. But for the 1080p mode, well, I think that's something of a missed opportunity here. Now you're probably wondering why performance is the same between the game running at 1080p on the Pro and 4K. Well, it's pretty straightforward. With the Pro set to native 1080p in the dashboard, the game actually still renders internally at 4K and then downsamples to 1080p. Essentially, we get super sampling here, and this actually results in a nice uptick in image quality. So, for example, if you take a look closely, we find that texture details and generally small objects, subpixel imagery are all better resolved when running on the Pro, super sampled down to 1080p. In fact, we actually get a sharper, crisper image, and it's a welcome upgrade for PS4 Pro owners that only have a 1080p TV screen. The downside though is there's no alternate 1080p mode as such. For example, if you wanted to maintain a solid 30 FPS without any of those little stutters, then there's no way of actually doing that with the Pro. You're basically stuck with the downsampling and the slightly worse performance you get, which is not really ideal. It's not a deal breaker to be honest, but if I'm paying £350 on a machine designed to give you that premium experience, then I expect performance to be a little bit better. So it's kind of a mixed bag for 1080p screen owners with this particular game then. Performance suffers, but you get a boost in image quality. Whether that's a worthwhile trade-off, that's going to come down to an individual really. For me, I'm personally not too happy to take that kind of hit, and I'd rather play a 4K at least, so I get bigger gains in visual quality there. Overall, Skyrim Remastered is a somewhat interesting release. Yes, the PlayStation 4 Pro does give us a tangible upgrade over the base PS4 game, but it's not an ideal situation. When running at 4K, we do get a taste of the ultra high-end PC experience. Yeah, frame rates are capped at 30 FPS, but we still get a massive resolution boost, and if you own a 4K TV, it's definitely well worth taking advantage of. However, if you're stuck with a 1080p screen, and let's face it, most people are, well, the results aren't ideal. I like the improvement in image quality, but I'm not really keen to take that extra hit in performance. In that respect, I kind of hope Bethesda issues an update in order to resolve this further on down the line, but we'll have to wait and see. Right now, the PC version provides perhaps the most flexible and best way to play the game overall. Essentially, if you've got the GPU power available, then you can hit 4K 60, or if you're running a mid-range system, then 4K 30 is possible with more graphical bells and whistles than on consoles. But if you are a console gamer, then the 4K mode on PS4 Pro is a nice touch. But for 1080p users, the upgrade path isn't quite so clear-cut, to be honest. Anyway, I think that about covers it. As always, don't forget to like or subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And also, well, if you'd like to see an ultra high quality version of this stream, then be sure to check out digitalfoundry.net and support us via Patreon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.